Chapter 23 dealt with the first two blessings. Now we're coming up on the major culminating chapter of 24 with this Balaam and Balak narrative. And when Balaam saw that it pleased the Lord to bless Israel, he went not, as at other times, to seek for enchantments, but he set his face toward the wilderness. He immediately just gets up there. He doesn't go and pray to God as on the previous two occasions. Now he just begins to prophesy. And Balaam lifted up his eyes, and he saw Israel abiding in his tents, according to their tribes. And the Spirit of God came upon him, and he took up his parable. Now here's the third and final blessing. And said, Balaam the son of Beor hath said, and the man whose eyes are open hath said. He hath said, which heard the words of God, which saw the vision of the Almighty falling into a trance, but having his eyes open. How goodly are thy tents, O Jacob, and thy tabernacles, O Israel. As the valleys are, they spread forth, as gardens by the river's side, as the trees of lign, aloes, which the Lord hath planted, and as cedar trees beside the waters. He shall pour the water out of his buckets, and his seed shall be in many waters, and his king shall be higher than Agag, and his kingdom shall be exalted. God brought him forth out of Egypt. He hath, as it were, the strength of a unicorn. He shall eat up the nations, his enemies, and shall break their bones and pierce them through with his arrows. He couched, he lay down as a lion, and as a great lion. Who shall stir him up? Blessed is he that blesseth thee, and cursed is he that curseth thee. And my friends, there is something very significant in this. Whenever the Lord says of his people, Israel, I shall bless those that bless thee, and curse those that curse thee. It is a known proverb over here in America. In the United States of America, we're the most mighty nation that's ever really existed on the planet Earth, as far as worldly military weaponry and such. But we are also the greatest ally of Israel. And the proverb over here is, the second that we are done with Israel, we are done as a nation. The only reason why we're so blessed is because we bless Israel. Far from being affected by blessings and cursings from outside, Israel was itself, and still is, a source of blessing or cursing to others according as they treated him. And with that is the third and final blessing pronounced over Israel upon their arrival almost into the promised land, and we went over the significance of that in the prior study. But now we read this, and Balak's anger, the king's anger, was kindled against Balaam, and he smote his hands together. And Balak said unto Balaam, I called thee to curse mine enemies, and behold, thou hast altogether blessed them these 3 times. Therefore now flee thou to thy place. I thought to promote thee into great honor, but lo, the Lord hath kept thee back from honor. And Balaam said unto Balak, Spake I not also to thy messengers, which thou sentest unto me, saying, If Balak would give me his house full of silver and gold, I cannot go beyond the commandment of the Lord, to do either good or bad of mine own mind. But what the Lord saith, that will I speak. And now behold, I go unto my people. Come therefore, and I will advertise thee what this people shall do to thy people in the latter days. You see, the Lord has revealed unto this prophet Balaam what will happen in the latter days, which is a time still to come. And he took up his parable and said, Balaam, the son of Beor, hath said, and the man whose eyes are open hath said, he hath said, which heard the words of God, and knew the knowledge of the Most High, which saw the vision of the Almighty falling into a trance, but having his eyes open. I shall see him, but not now. I shall behold him, but not nigh. There shall come a star out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel, and shall smite the corners of Moab, and destroy all the children of Sheth. And Edom shall be a possession, Seir also shall be a possession for his enemies, and Israel shall do valiantly. Out of Jacob shall come he that shall have dominion, and shall destroy him that remaineth of the city. And then Balaam turns and looks toward the land of the Amalekites, and he took up his parable and said, Amalek was the first of the nations, but his latter end shall be that he perish forever. And he looked on the Kenites, and took up his parable, and said, Strong is thy dwelling place, and thou puttest thy nest in a rock. Nevertheless the Kenites shall be wasted, until Asshur, or the Assyrian, shall carry thee away captive. And what Balaam is saying right here is how all nations will be under subjection to these people right before them. One man will come out of them and will put them above all others. And he took up his parable and said, Alas, who shall live when God doeth this? That is such a strong statement. And in essence, what its meaning is, when God brings these things to pass, who shall live? Jesus even alludes to this in the latter days. He says, Lest I return, no flesh shall be saved. And ships shall come from the coast of Chittim, and shall afflict Asshur, and shall afflict Eber, and he also shall perish forever. And Balaam rose up, and went and returned to his place, and the king also went his way.